Claire Bennett, a quiet and overlooked intern at Western Logistics, spends her days doing unnoticed tasks while secretly mastering Japanese in honor of her late grandmother. When a crucial meeting with Japanese executives threatens to collapse due to the absence of an interpreter, Claire steps forward, translating flawlessly and saving a multi-million-dollar deal. Her transformation from invisible intern to essential cultural liaison exposes the company's shallow hierarchy and delivers a powerful message about humility, preparation, and unseen worth. The boardroom lights buzzed softly, cold, clinical, merciless. 20 executives sat frozen around the glass table, their eyes darting between the clock and the empty chair meant for the translator. The Japanese delegation was arriving in 6 minutes. The biggest deal in the company's history was about to collapse, and no one could do a thing about it. Brandon Moore, CEO of Western Logistics, slammed his pen onto the table. "Does no one have a solution?" His voice sliced through the silence. Phones buzzed. Panic spread like wildfire. Kelly Hart barked into her headset. "Every interpreter in the city is booked, sir." "Maybe we can reschedule. Brandon snapped. "You don't reschedule Yamamoto Industries." In the far corner of the room, a young woman stood with a silver coffee carafe trembling in her hands. Claire Bennett, in turn. No title. No voice. Just the shadow who filled coffee cups and erased whiteboards. Brandon's eyes landed on her. "Hey, intern," he said with a cruel smirk. "You seem quiet, but smart. Why don't you translate this for us?" He tossed a Japanese document across the table, his laughter echoing as others joined in. The paper landed at her feet. For a second, no one breathed. Claire crouched slowly, her hands shaking, not from fear, but from the pressure of a decision that would change everything. She looked up, meeting his gaze for the first time. "I can," she said softly. "What?" Brandon frowned. "I can translate it," she repeated, louder this time. Laughter rippled through the room, disbelief, condescension, mockery. But when Claire began to speak precise, melodic Japanese flowing effortlessly from her lips, the laughter choked mid-breath. The room fell silent. Every syllable was clear, every tone perfect. She bowed slightly, eyes steady. "Good morning, gentlemen. On behalf of Western Logistics, we thank you for your patience." The executives blinked in astonishment. Brandon's smirk vanished. Kelly's phone slipped from her hand. In that frozen boardroom, something irreversible shifted. The intern everyone ignored had just saved them from collapse, and none of them even knew her name. That morning wasn't a miracle. It was the result of hundreds of silent nights. For months, Claire had arrived before sunrise, unlocking doors, setting up presentations she'd never be invited to, placing fresh coffee for meetings where her existence was a whisper. She was a ghost in glass halls, trained to be unseen. In her small apartment, she lived differently. The walls were lined with Japanese textbooks, post-it notes, and her grandmother's worn dictionary, the pages soft with use, corners folded like prayers. Each note carried her grandmother's handwriting. "Patience is power. Humility is strength." While others scrolled through weekend photos, Claire practiced kanji strokes. When coworkers dismissed her, she recited honorifics. Her dedication wasn't fueled by ambition, it was survival, purpose, and love. Her only ally, Mr. Wallace, the aging security guard, saw her every day. "Still fighting the quiet fight, kid?" he'd ask. She'd smile, shrug. "Some battles aren't loud." He nodded, always thoughtful. The people who change everything are usually the ones nobody sees coming. In the company's hierarchy, Claire was nothing. But in her own quiet world, she was preparing for a moment no one else could see coming. And when that moment arrived 6 minutes before disaster, her preparation met destiny. Brandon stared at her like a man seeing light for the first time. "Say that again," he whispered. Claire repeated the greeting slower, clearer. The Japanese executives smiled, relieved, impressed, engaged. Within seconds, she was seated at the head of the table, translating each line with perfect composure. As she spoke, her voice carried authority she never thought she possessed. Years of invisibility condensed into one steady rhythm of purpose. But beneath the surface, tension rippled. Kelly Hart's smile faltered as she realized her control was slipping. She whispered to Brandon, This is reckless. She's not trained for this. One mistake, Brandon didn't answer. He was watching Claire, not the intern, but the interpreter who'd bridged an ocean. Mr. Yamamoto, the delegation leader, asked a complex cultural question about resilience during typhoon season. Claire paused, translating not only the words, but the intent behind them. He's asking, she murmured to Brandon, whether we understand the weight of nature and the humility it demands. Brandon blinked, caught off guard. Then tell him, we do. Her translation carried warmth, respect, and sincerity, values Western logistics had long forgotten. And for the first time in company history, both sides smiled the same way. By the second hour, the air in the boardroom had changed. Claire wasn't just translating. She was guiding, adapting tone, softening aggression, transforming a negotiation into a conversation. Every phrase became a bridge. Every gesture a lesson in respect. Kelly's anxiety deepened. Her carefully built kingdom of proximity to power was crumbling. When Brandon asked for Yamamoto's trust, Claire instinctively used Shinrai, not just trust, but faith earned through time. The delegation nodded approvingly. That subtle shift sealed the deal. Kelly's chest tightened. She had spent years perfecting visibility, yet one quiet intern had conquered the room by being authentic. When the meeting ended, Mr. Yamamoto stood, bowed slightly to Claire, and said in Japanese, "Your preparation honors your company. I would like you to be our permanent liaison." Claire translated, voice trembling. The room erupted in applause. But the loudest sound was Brandon's silence, the kind of silence born from realization. Hours later, in Brandon's office, the light had shifted from gold to silver. The skyline glowed behind him like a confession. "You've been here 8 months," he said quietly, "and I never saw you." Claire's fingers tightened on her notebook. "You weren't looking." Brandon nodded slowly. "No, I wasn't." He leaned forward, sincerity replacing authority. "I've built this company on voices that shout the loudest. But today I learned something: excellence doesn't always raise its hand. Sometimes it waits for the right moment." He offered her a folder. Asian Market Liaison. Full position, real salary, full respect. Tears blurred Claire's vision. Not from pride, from validation. This wasn't victory. It was arrival. That evening, Claire stopped by the security desk. Mr. Wallace looked up from his novel, smiling softly. "I heard," he said. "Knew it was coming." Claire laughed through quiet tears. "You once told me some nails hold the whole structure together." He nodded. "Guess you were one of those nails." She stepped into the twilight, city lights shimmering across glass towers. For the first time, she wasn't walking through a building, she was walking through her own story. Her grandmother's dictionary rested in her bag, one note still visible between its pages: "Patience isn't waiting. It's preparing." The streetlights hummed. The world moved. And somewhere between silence and recognition, Claire Bennett, once invisible, finally existed in full color.